So, you think you know what a revolution looks like? Well, this one didn't start with a battle or a protest. It started with just 6 small dots. But this isn't just about a system of reading. It's really this incredible story of genius that was born from absolute tragedy. A story about how one boy with one big idea completely changed the game for literacy, for independence, and really for human potential itself.
And it all really boils down to this one kind of mind-blowing question. How on earth did a childhood accident, a single tragic moment in a workshop in France, end up sparking a global revolution? One that would unlock the entire world of knowledge for millions of people. Let's dig in. All right, so let's set the scene. Our story kicks off in this small French town, Coupfray, and it's here that a single event becomes the catalyst for, well, for a future that absolutely no one saw coming.
This is Louis Braille, born way back in 1809. Now, his dad wasn't just some guy who worked with leather. No, he was a master harness maker, a true artisan. So you have to picture it. Young Louis is growing up in this workshop, and it's just filled with all these fascinating and, yeah, very, very sharp tools.
And then, in 1812, the unthinkable happens. Louis is just 3 years old. He's in the workshop, trying to be like his dad, using a tool called an awl to punch a hole in some leather. And it slips. It pierces his eye. I mean, this is an era with zero understanding of germs, right? The infection, treated with things like herbal wraps, just spreads like wildfire to his other eye. By the time he was 5 years old, he was completely blind.
But here's where the story could have ended. But it didn't. His family, they just refused to give up on him. His dad literally hammered nails into a board, creating the shapes of the alphabet so Louis could feel them. I mean, the dedication. And Louis, his mind was just brilliant. It shone so brightly that by the time he was 10, he earned a scholarship to the one place on the entire planet dedicated to educating blind children, the Royal Institute for Blind Youth in Paris. A total game changer. So he gets to Paris, and it's there that he stumbles upon this idea. A really flawed, super clunky system that honestly every adult thought was a total failure. But to Louis, this wasn't a failure, it was a spark. A promising spark. Okay, so in 1821, this guy, Charles Barbier, shows up at the school. He's got an invention he calls night rating. It's basically a military code, a system of raised dots that he'd actually developed for Napoleon's soldiers. The whole point was so they could communicate silently in the dark, on the battlefield. Barbier figured, hey, maybe this could work for the blind, too. The teachers and the adults, they're all kind of intrigued. But Louis, who's only 12 at this point, he sees the problems instantly. The code used 12 dots, which is way too big to feel with a single fingertip, and it was based on sounds, not actual letters, so you couldn't really do spelling or grammar or punctuation. I mean, forget it. It was complicated and just clumsy. But while everyone else was ready to dismiss it, Louis saw that tiny spark of a good idea hidden inside all the flaws. And this is the moment everything changes. A teenager sees what a full-blown military captain couldn't. He didn't just see a flawed code. He saw a pathway to true independent literacy. And he got to work, meticulously engineering a breakthrough. Just look at the difference here. The leap he made was just incredible. Barbier's system had that huge 12-dot cell. Braille's solution, a simple, elegant 6-dot cell that fits perfectly under one fingertip. Barbier was stuck on representing sounds. Braille created a system for the entire alphabet, plus numbers and punctuation. Where Barbier's system was clunky and hard to write, Braille's used a simple slate and stylus. He took this limited, inconsistent idea and turned it into something logical, mathematical, and basically perfect. It wasn't just an upgrade, it was a complete revolution. And here is the most unbelievable, almost poetic part of this whole story. For 3 years, from the time he was 12 to 15, Louis just works and works, perfecting his system. And the tool he uses to punch the dots into the paper, it was an awl. The exact same type of tool that took his sight away, became the very instrument he used to give the gift of literacy to the entire world. Just wow. And he wasn't done. He didn't just stop with the alphabet. His goal was bigger. He wanted to create a complete toolkit for knowledge. He was a gifted musician himself, so, of course, in 1834 he finishes a code for music, and it's an instant hit. A few years later, the first book using his system is published. Then he develops a system for math. You see, this was never just about reading words. It was about unlocking everything. Music, science, all of it. You'd think everyone would be thrilled, right? A genius invention. But no. Like so many revolutionary ideas, this one wasn't just accepted with open arms. In fact, it was fought against, hard, by an establishment that was actually scared of the very independence it offered. And get this, the new headmaster, this guy named Dufault, his problem wasn't that the system didn't work. His problem was that it worked too well. He was literally worried that if the blind students became too independent, if they could read and write all by themselves, well, they wouldn't need sighted teachers like him anymore. Their freedom, their empowerment, he saw it as a threat to his own power. Unbelievable. And that fear led him to do something truly shocking. In 1843, he rounded up all the Braille books the students had so carefully made by hand, and he burned them in the school courtyard. He took away all their writing tools, their slates, their styluses. He was dead set on crushing this newfound independence. But here's the thing. He completely, totally underestimated the students. A quiet rebellion started. They used the system in secret. Older students would teach the younger ones the forbidden code. And when their tools were confiscated, they just made new ones out of knitting needles, forks, nails, anything they could get their hands on. See, they had had a taste of real literacy, of freedom, and there was no way they were going to let anyone take that away from them. This was their code now, and they were going to fight for it. And that rebellion, that was the real turning point. It's because of those students that despite all the opposition, Louis Braille's 6 little dots were going to survive and build a legacy that would circle the entire globe. The story has a bittersweet turn, though. Louis Braille died from tuberculosis in 1852. He was only 43, and he died thinking his life's work had been a failure. He never got to see what happened next. Just 2 years after he passed away, France officially adopted Braille, and by 1878, an international congress declared it the world standard. His idea was just too powerful. It outlived him. It outlived his critics. It outlived all of it. So, how far did that idea go? I mean, really, how big did it get? Well, today, that simple, elegant 6-dot system that started in a tiny French workshop has been adapted for 133 different languages around the globe. 133. That's just staggering. And please, don't make the mistake of thinking this is just some old historical thing. Braille is alive and kicking in the 21st century. Why? Because its fundamental idea, information through touch, is a perfect match for modern technology. We're talking refreshable Braille displays that connect to computers and the internet, Braille's smartwatches that give you notifications, AI that translates text to Braille on the fly. That 6-dot system is more relevant now than maybe ever before. When you really think about it, what Braille's invention did was flip our whole understanding of disability on its head. He proved that the limitation isn't in the person. The limitation is in a world that isn't built for them. It's a challenge for society to solve with creativity and with new ideas. You know, he didn't fix blindness. He fixed the inaccessibility of the world for blind people. And that's a huge difference. So, at the end of the day, what's the big takeaway? It's the absolutely incredible power of one person, one idea. This is the story of a teenager who literally redrew the future of accessibility, all with just 6 dots. It's a story about resilience, about ingenuity, and it's a lesson that is just as powerful today as it was 200 years ago. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What huge problem that we face today is just waiting for its own 6-dot solution?